गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुस्साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. So today is Gita. So we were discussing 5th chapter. So there were two ways, karma and the sannyasa. Karma sannyasa, the renunciation of karma. So Arjuna, having heard the previous 4 chapters, got a doubt, and he was asking in the first shloka, Sannyasam karmanam Krishna. Krishna, you are teaching us giving up the karma. That means renouncing karma. Sannyasam parityagam karmanam shastriyanam. Now, karma tyaga means 2 things. There are two kinds of karmas. One is natural, instinctive karmas. Natural karma means the very living organism does, like breathing, looking, hunger and thirst, eating and drinking. The natural, the very living, perception and etc., which are the very functions of any living being. The basic functions of any living being, nobody can give up. You can't give up your breathing. You can't give up your seeing and hearing, touching. Okay? So these are all the very experiences of life, the living processes, the basic living actions, living activity of a living being. Nobody can give up because they are not under our choice. So when we say giving up karma, we give up the other activity, the professional duty, or a desire prompted acts. Our professional duty, the social relationship, economic, social and other, only those things we are talking of. That's why here Shankaracharya says sannyasam. When he says sannyasa, sannyasam karmanam Krishna. Hey Krishna, karmanam sannyasam. Sannyasam, parityagam, karmanam. What karma we are talking? Shastriyanam anushtheya visheshanam. That means the duties which are enjoined or which are necessitated by your position in the society or your stage in life is ashrama. Your position in society is called dharma, is called varna, and ashrama is your stage in life. Position in society, your stage in life. Stage means your age and maturity. Depending upon that, there are different stages in your life. That is called ashrama. Brahmacharya, the student life. Gruhastha, the householder. A family man responsibly, a family man who wields the family and lives the family life. Then he is a retired person. Vanaprastha. So these are the stages in life. The other was varna is your position, your place in the society. So these duties are enjoined upon you in the occasion of, means in the wake of taking your varna, your ashrama, your age, your many factors. Taking the many factors into consideration, these duties were enjoined. That means these duties you are expected to do in a society. So you have a social responsibility, national, society and all that, family and all those. Or you may have accepted your own certain things out of your ambition, you want to achieve something and all that. Worldly things, worldly achievements. So that's why he says, Shastriyanam anushtheya visheshanam. Those karmas which you are for a gruhastha, they are enjoined for a gruhastha. Those things you are advising me to drop them, renounce them. One side you say, you are asking me to renounce all the duties, responsibilities of a gruhastha. Grahastha means, as I told you, the family, society and all. The other one is, so as I told you, the life experiences, the life activities nobody can renounce. So we are not talking of that. So the Shastra talks of renouncing only those specific duties, extra duties, which come to you in the wake of being a householder, a social person. Then again you say, again you are advising me, advocating me to follow the same karmas as a karma yoga. So, sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam cha shamsasi. Again you are advising me to follow the same karma as a yoga. Now tell me, should I? So, yat shreya etayorekam kathayasi ityetatu shamsasi prashamsasi punaha yogam cha teshameva anushtanam avashya kartavyam shamsasi. Again you are advising me, you must do karma, you can't give up karma. This is a very contradiction. Arjuna felt contradiction. One side you say karma is limited, it can't take you to absolute truth, final moksha, and again, therefore you have to renounce everything and give up all karma and go beyond. Okay. Then second you say, you must do your duty that purifies you, that is necessary. Then you tell me, Arjuna got confused. You advise me to transcend karma. Again you ask me to do karma. If I have to transcend, should I not give up? This is Arjuna's logic. In fact, most of the people also misunderstand this way. Of course, transcending karma is the real one. But what is transcending is not understood. That's why this doubt arises. This doubt arises, karma, regarding two things. Karma is no doubt binding. But the same karma can be done as a yoga. The same duty, social responsibilities, your duties can be done as a yoga because that purifies you, that prepares you. Second stage, giving up karma is not simply giving up karma. You grow out of the pressure for karma. You go out of the need for karma. See, this is the thing. Karma is a desire, an ambition, a pressure within you, isn't it? A desire, a pressure. The pressure comes out of a desire to become. I want to become something. I want to achieve something. I want to become something. Why? Because as I am incomplete. I am unhappy. As I am unhappy. I am incomplete. Therefore, I want to become something. Okay. This sense of becoming expresses in the form of your duty. Some people want money. Some people want social status. Some people want name and fame. Some people want position. Position means you have some kind of a power in the society, power in the political power or some such thing. Or some people want an emotional relationship and pleasures. So these are all various things. If without that I can't live, because I need these things, and these things require external situations, money, position, relationship with people. If you depend upon external things, then you need those situations. See, if you depend upon power, you need that social context. You have to do something you have to win over the society. Then you will get that political position or anything. Okay. So you have to work hard to get it. And now you work hard to get it because that satisfies a need in you. What is that need? Like these various desires. So in the last class we were discussing, person has to grow to a higher level. First, basically the very common man, the lowest man is simply the pleasure seeking, which is common to all. Then a person goes little higher step, that you want to keep security for tomorrow. You want to have your certain money and status, etc. for tomorrow's sake. Then first, pleasures comes easily for any animal or a baby. Seeking pleasure is a very straight way. It is easy for anybody. Then for sake of that pleasure, you require money and security. That requires you have to work hard to get money and security. Therefore, this is a Kama Purushartha is the first, Artha Purusha is the second. Then in the society you want to position, name and fame and etc. That is a still higher one, because that is a little more psychological. That gives you more a psychological satisfaction. Then you go to the still higher one, a religious satisfaction, a religious merit that we call punya. That religious merit can give you in this society a good name and fame. And also, after the death of the body, you go to heaven and all. Means you go to Swarga. We talk of Hindu Swarga, not that biblical heaven. So, we go to the Swarga, and then that means you have a very better life, good life. You will have a better body. And the next Janma also, you will have a better body, better life and all that thing. So, a punya, a religious merit like prayers, rituals, charity, and then service, all these things will give you religious merit. So the person first, from his simple material pleasure, he grows to a little higher one. The same pleasure, if you alone indulge, it will give you some pleasure. Instead of that, you offer certain things to others. You help others. You will get a little psychological satisfaction. Mind enjoys the joy, a different joy, when you help others when somebody is in trouble or somebody is in need. See, you can see this difference very easily. You get whatever you alone enjoy, this will be a simple material pleasure, and this pleasure will not last long. You enjoy something, it gets exhausted very soon. The joy of enjoying something will go away very fast. Instead of that, you offer it to somebody. You give something to others, then if the other person becomes happy, seeing that you become happy, you will be a better person. From the animal instinct, you have grown to little higher one, isn't it? So because this gives you a deeper psychological satisfaction than the physical pleasure. Therefore, you go from the physical body level to prana level, from prana level to mind level to intellect level. So the values, the importance keeps growing. Even the joy also, the pleasure, physical level is one pleasure. So see the difference. Somebody who is fond of eating like a glutton, all tasty things, he keeps on eating, enjoying. But if he overeats, because of that greed for eating, the hunger, greed for eating, he overeats because he is very fond of eating various kinds of food. If you eat so much, a time comes then you will fall sick. So the health requires a little sacrifice, little disciplining, little regulating your life. You need little control. Otherwise, just for pleasure, for the pleasure of eating, you don't need control, you enjoy, go on eating. But if you want a good health, that is a pranamaya kosha. Better than the body is a prana. So you want the prana, good healthy thing, then you have to regulate your food, sleeping habits, and then the type of food you eat, quantity of you eat, and then digestion and all that. Then you require little regulation, control, discipline, values. Okay. So health is a higher compared to physical pleasures. So there is a joy of health. The joy of health is of higher joy than the physical joy, physical pleasure. Because prana is a subtler one compared to the physical body. So the physical pleasures are lower level and the prana level is a higher level. It comes as a result of some discipline, some control, and then your taste changes, mind changes, you become a more matured and cultured person. From the prana, from the good health, then you have to go to the mind level. Mind level is from the health. First thing is physical level, second is prana level, third level is a social level, that you love people, help the people and try to help them, share with them. You don't want to be too selfish and you want to share. So social values, interaction with people, behave well, don't get angry, be friendly with people. Then in being friendly with people, therefore social interaction puts you certain responsibilities. You have to wield the responsibility, help them, serve them, be in friendly relationship with them. This also requires some discipline, some sacrifice, some learning, some maturity. So you have to do little sacrificing. That means from the physical pleasure, you come to the healthiness. From the being healthy person, you go to a socially good, interacting, responsible person. From that person, still you higher level, you go to a mental level. Mind means the mind emotions. Cultivating emotions, you have social relationship, but the same social relationship come with a deeper heart, wholehearted relationship with a more selfless, more deeper relationship combined with the values, and also the values involve a good heart, good sentiments. Okay, that's why you have to cultivate art, music, and other things. Art, music, other things are meant to cultivate, purify your emotions, so that your feeling of relationship with people, with your parents, with your spouse, or with your children, with your friends, or with the society, with the world, you can feel anything you do it with a deeper feelings, with an intimate relationship with them. That means you have to cultivate your emotion, purify your emotion, start feeling a deeply and a vast relationship with other. Okay, first physical pleasure, which like anybody, like an animal or a baby can enjoy. Prana, you require little discipline and control. Okay, then come to the social. Social means you have to interact with people, be responsible, don't steal others, and if you borrow then you return. So these are all social responsibilities, and you work hard and don't take bribes. So in the social and economic responsibility, you learn few more values. You'll be a little more better person compared to a lower two. This is the third level. See how the man grows deeply, deeply inside. From this, then you come to the emotional purity. Emotional purity is anything you feel wholeheartedly. So that's why we say anything you take it, anything you are given. Don't we generally take it as a material value of a thing. See, a book is given, a cloth is given. You take it as a material value. No, you have to add the sentiment to it. And there also, first the purity of the sentiment, then the second step is the same sentiment will be a little more religious sentiment. This is where karma yoga enters. Okay, religious sentiment, that means whatever you get, take it as a gift of God, as a prasada of Bhagavan. Now honestly you work hard, you take it. When it comes to you, don't say I have earned it. No, it is a gift of God. It is a blessing of God. I have received it. Therefore, you not only enjoy the physical object, but you enjoy the gift and the blessing of God. Every object is a blessing of Ishvara. Okay, everything that you have, even your friends, your spouse, your parents, your children and relationship, it is the gift of God. It is a blessing of God that you have children, blessing of God you have a spouse, good spouse, and blessing of God that you have parents still alive, that you can serve them, be in their company. Like this, you have got a good friends. That all these things, whatever you get, you see relate to Ishvara. You don't simply see that I have earned it, and then it is my. So that it is a mine, abhimana of mine, you drop off. Then you start seeing that it is related to Ishvara. Now through this worldly social relationship, you become a deeper person. You relate to directly Ishvara, who is the creator of the world, creator, sustainer, and dissolver. Ishvara, who creates, who sustains, because he is all pervasive in the form of every object and every human being he exists. At the end, he dissolves everything into himself. So this Ishvara, you want to relate to him, you go beyond the humanity, beyond the society. First, you relate to your family and friends, family. Then your relational circle expands. First, you relate to your family members, your own intimate relationship, family members. Then your love, your selfless love expands into your society circle. Then your friend circle. Then to the society. Then to the nation. Then to the whole humanity. Then even after humanity, then it goes deeper to the Ishvara. Ishvara means Ishvara includes all these things. Ishvara includes your respect and love for family, includes your love and respect for society, includes your love and respect for your friend circle, friends and working, your colleagues and friends. Okay, your love and respect and responsibility towards them expands your circle from the friend circle to the society, friends and colleague circle to the society as a whole or a nation, then to the whole world or humanity, then to the whole cosmos, who is Ishvara. which is under the Ishvara. Then you relate to even Devatas, Rishis, Pitru, next Janma, previous Janma, animals, plants, sun and moon and star, the entire cosmos you include. Okay, then you see that the whole world is created Ishvara, and you feel so thankful to him. You feel Kritagnyata that he has created the sun and moon and the stars and nature, natural laws. Natural laws he created, animals and plants. You respect them, see them, either they are his own representatives, or see them, they are himself alone. He himself is appearing as animals, human beings, your relatives, society, world and all. Nature, 5 elements like the rivers, mountains, forest, animals and sun, moon and star. All this is Ishvara appearing, manifesting. So your worship, your devotional worship, your service goes deeper, which includes your family also. Family, individual life, social life, your colleagues, work and responsibility, your working job and etc. All this is included in the cosmic relationship of Ishvara. This is where Karma Yoga comes. Okay. So see how you are growing. Unless you grow into this deeper level, you just can't talk of, oh, giving up karma. It doesn't work. Now when you live as a devotee, a service, a loving devotee of Ishvara who is all pervasive, who owns the whole world, and he himself is appearing as the world, who owns this entire cosmos, he himself is appearing as a cosmos, including the society, therefore your relationship with your spouse, relationship with your family members changes now. They are all part of Ishvara. They are representative of Bhagavan. So when you relate to them, your relationship will be more devotional, more dedicated, more selfless. Because you see them as human. You don't see them as simple your own relationship. You see them, your love becomes deeper. Your love becomes more selfless. Because you see them as Ishvara. So the society, the friend circle, your colleagues and friends, hereafter they become Ishvara's people. Now you love Ishvara by respecting these people, by serving them, by being honestly relating to them, not cheating, not exploiting, not misbehaving. All this is a service to Ishvara. See how your social relationships, your working conditions, your work, your job and family life, personal life, all this is changed as a worship to Ishvara. Okay. Therefore, worship need not, that's why Indians say going to temple is one part of it. But going to temple is not necessary. Some people don't even go. Because we say life itself, your profession itself is an Ishvara. That itself is a worship to Ishvara. Therefore, Karma Yoga itself is worship. Some people go occasionally, some people go regularly, some people even from a distance they do Namaskara. At home alone, wherever you are, you do Namaskara and continue. Okay, you do salute, you do Namaskara, and it is the same God who is in the temple, is everywhere, and he is in the form of this world and society and all these people. Nature, all these people, and including me, he includes me also. Because he has created me, he is sustaining me, and he is doing my circumstances, my body, because my body is a part of natural laws. So this natural laws is also Ishvara. Okay, the nature's laws, the science, the society, the government, all this is part of Ishvara. Therefore, we include society, the politics, your system, your nation, all this is a part of Ishvara. Ishvara has got different circles. Okay, like we have got a body, prana, mind, intellect. We ourselves have different layers. Similarly, Ishvara, all these are of layers of Ishvara. Therefore, I relate to him at these different levels. Then see from the lowest level of physical pleasure, how you have been growing to them. When you come to Karma Yoga level, after this Karma Yoga, you will become fit for renouncing. That is the where you transcend karma. Okay. Until you come to Karma Yoga, karma is necessary. This Arjuna has not understood. Karma is necessary. The duties, responsibilities to the society and the world you have to use. You have to wield, you have to take care of these people. In these things you learn certain things, selflessness, some values, some discipline, purity of the heart, egolessness, all these things you learn. When you come to the Karma Yoga level, then the beyond Karma Yoga level comes sannyasa. Arjuna didn't understand this. He thought, if karma binds you, karma is cause and effect relationship. If cause and effect relationship binds me, then I'll drop karma. Arjuna didn't understand just by saying that I shall drop, it doesn't work. Can you transcend the relationship of cause and effect? You just can't do. By only physically you will avoid the work, you will refrain from doing the work, and you will be the same individual, same person. Same person simply renouncing karma is not sannyasa. Sannyasa is growing in terms of inner maturity. Inwardly you grow mature. Your outlook, your dependency changes. Your relationship changes. All your relationship become worshipful, selfless and worshipful. Because all you see everything as a God. This world, society, my family, my responsibilities, all these are God's order He has given you. Your own family responsibilities. You see the social customs, your government laws. These European religions, these Western religions, they talk of their religious laws are different and government laws we don't care. See, government laws are man-made. This is a ridiculous thing. We don't distinguish between man-made, God-made. Man is not different from God. God is not different from man. Therefore, this man-made, say, we believe the laws of our religious book. We don't care for these man-made laws. We go by our own book, holy book. So this creates a struggle in the society. These are all fanatics. Anyway, therefore, that is not a spiritual religion. They are all political religions, imperialistic religions. So we leave them. Only just for contrast I have spoken, but in Hinduism or in any Eastern religions or anywhere in the world, if they understood religion in this sense, the sense Hinduism understands, if any other religion anywhere, even Europe and America, if they understand religion in this sense, then they are also Hindus. See, it is the right meaning I am talking, not a branding the names. Names are not important. If you understand in this sense, then you are a Hindu, even there also. So we take the family and the society, they are the circles, part of Ishvara, the whole cosmic Ishvara. Therefore, even the government laws, also the social convention laws, the social laws, social interactions also governed by certain values and certain conventions. These conventions are age-old conventions. They imply certain respect, certain values. So you just can't say these are all man-made, I don't care. See, so these man-made laws also imply certain values. Those values are advised by Bhagavan only. Ishvara himself advised and ordered these values, and these values alone govern the human beings. When human beings make laws, the parliament and constitution, the laws human beings make, the government laws or the social laws, your own company laws, your own company wherever you are working, your factory or company wherever you are working, they also make laws according to the universal law. See, there is a universal law, there is a universal values. Keeping the universal values, you make the laws according to your family, your society, your group of people, your working company. The laws are made keeping the universal values. So they are all branches of universal values. They are part of universal values. But there are certain religions coming from Europe in India, they always violate government laws. They say that we just don't believe, we believe in our own religion. So this is a very selfish people. In the name of religion, they'll create all problems. So, but that's not karma yoga. Religion is only become a politics. Not only politics, it has become terrorism also. It has gone to anti-social elements, mafia gangs, and do anything. Okay, in the name of religion. So here, when we say the true religion, the Upanishadic Vedic religion, it is in this sense. Veda, it means all Eastern religions in broadest sense I am talking. So, from the body level, you grow to inward level. Inward level, you include the smaller circles into the larger circles, okay? Your individual life is included as a part of family life. Family respect and consideration, love and care and service, this is included in the larger your friend circle, friends and colleagues, your place of work in your company, the company or factory or office wherever you work, your working conditions, your working colleagues and friends are a larger circle compared to family. Okay, then that your company, your working conditions are part of your nation or a society, whatever you take it bigger one, nation, it is still a larger one. That the nation or a society is a part of whole humanity, whole global humanity. Then that global humanity is a part of cosmos. Cosmos includes your next janma, rishis, and then devatas, rishis, animals, plants, and everybody. So everything on the earth, every atom on the earth, you love and respect, see them as a part of all this entire cosmos is the body of Ishvara. Okay, he himself is existing in this thing. So in this, as you expand your circle, you also inwardly grow deeper, you grow mature, and externally you take all these people. So in all broader circles, smaller circles are included. Okay, individual is included in family, family is included in your friend and colleague circle, and that friend and colleague circle included in your society, society is included in global society, global society includes, world society includes in cosmic society. The cosmic being is Ishvara. How smaller circles are included in the larger circles. Then you keep that cosmic circle in view, cosmic in view, and then whatever you do, you will be a more selfless person. You will be a karma yogi. Your life is a worship. Don't take anything for granted. We don't become selfish. Or we look at only smaller circle. We don't put family against the rest of the society. For sake of family, you are a corrupt person, exploit the society and look after your family. See, many people do like that. They look after their family and exploit the society. Or you exploit the other countries and look after your own country. See, this nationalism means, not all the time, but in India we don't mean nationalism in that sense. In Hinduism, nationalism is different. Now this is a very confusing, because they bring the European idea of nation. Nation means you defend your nation and then offend other outsiders. But so here nation is one circle which excludes the rest of the global society, rest of the world society. Therefore, the neighboring countries you exploit through business, through politics, you invade the countries and you rob the people, you put one country against other, and your country you want to become rich. And you want to develop what is that marketing you develop and use other countries only as a sales market. That's all. Though that you become rich and you don't allow others to become rich. If he also becomes rich, you feel a threat and you want to destroy. You weaken them, subjugate them, and do all kinds of things. So here, putting now you are one. See, from these different circles, I am a part of a family. Now, some people exploit the family for sake of their personal life. He is too selfish. He ignores the family. Some people come up to the family but ignore the other circle of colleagues and friends. For sake of your society, for sake of your own family, you exploit others. Some people again grow from that friend and colleague circle. You go to the whole society or nation. Okay. Then for sake of the society or nation, you just don't see your company is more important. Your company should be rich at the cost of government and the society. Or in India, we have got states. Within the country, we have the states. So one state wants to become rich at the cost of India, whole India. Now that means a smaller circle is more important than the larger circle. This is selfishness. Okay, the smaller circle, which is a part of a larger circle, you expand your vision, you expand your dedication, your love and worship for the larger circle, in which the smaller is included. Smaller is not excluded. In the nation also, the country, India as a country has to be understood as a part of a larger human society. So, this way you become larger and larger, ultimately you come to the whole cosmos. Then you become a karma yogi, a selfless person. You don't exploit one group, you don't exploit all other people for sake of your own people or your own group of people. This groupism is most common. One is a nation, another is a nation, ethnic group, or religion. Religion is a one group of people. These people take care of their own religious group and other people they exploit, malign them, exploit them, invade them, enslave them. nation also. One nation invades others and exploits them, and then economically, politically, socially dominate them, keep them as slaves, and make money, and you become rich and live happily. So this one group of people, one society, one nation exploiting other, this is not karma yoga. This is again same ego. This is the same ego. Ego and selfishness, that is only jiva buddhi. Papa, we call adharma. So gradually you grow to the higher one. In higher, lower is included, not. A national interest is included in the global interest. When you take off the whole world society as one, then your nation is one part of it. Your national interest also is required, but for sake of nation, you don't exploit other countries in the world. See that the whole global is a humanity. All different races, white, black, or even different colors, all are human beings. Everybody has the same hunger and thirst and need and the pleasures and the art and music. All human beings are the same. Not only human beings, you go to the still cosmos, even the animals and plants are part of our life. Animals and plants and the sun and the moon and the star, rivers and forests, mountains, they are all, and the devatas and rishis living in the other world, other lokas, angels, okay, they are also part of us. That becomes the biggest cosmos. Then this is the kingdom of Ishvara, and then you serve them, everybody. You also become a part of it. This becomes a highest selflessness through karma. So we have got a different circles. Smaller circle is a part of a larger circle. Larger is still larger circle. The cosmos. When you keep that cosmos in view, then you work hard, sincerely work hard, selflessly, lovingly as a worship. Gives you discipline, gives you values, and then you will grow. You will become little more expanded, mature person. A Utkrishta jiva, Sattvika jiva. Okay? And such a person, as a result of karma yoga, he will go to Vaikuntha. After the death of the body, he will attain the highest loka. That is called Vaikuntha or Brahma loka, whatever you call. Brahma loka is the highest loka. A karma yogi, along with upasana, of course he has to do some meditation also, that cosmic Ishvara meditation. Along with karma yoga, when the meditation you do after the death of the body, you leave this body and your mind becomes much more a divine body. You assume a divine body, and then through this Uttarayana Marga, some of you might have know it already. Most of us, you know, this Uttarayana Marga, then you reach the Brahma Loka or Vaikuntha Loka. So it's the highest thing. Like this, we have got different circles. But even as a karma yogi, you come to such a stage where you become purer. Very pure man, very selfless man. That is the stage you are ready to give up karma. You are prepared, mature enough, because the cause and effect relationship becomes subtler. Even that subtler cause and effect relationship you have to give up. You have to transcend the very cause and effect relationship, transcend the very karma, and get established in the absolute Atma, absolute consciousness, which is beyond cause and effect, which is beyond time and place. That's where sannyasa comes. Then sannyasa is two levels. One is you wish to transcend karma, cause and effect relationship, karma phala, but still you have not discovered it. You are just preparing yourself for it. That is sadhaka sannyasi, we call vividisha sannyasa. Sadhaka sannyasi is more than a karma yogi and less than brahmagyani. Okay? He is a sannyasi, is a renounced, a person, a renunciate. He has gone little above karma yoga. It is still higher than karma yoga. That means karma yoga he doesn't practice as a sadhana, because his life becomes already, when he renounces everything for Ishvara, he renounces himself, surrenders himself to Bhagavan, a cosmic Bhagavan. It is a little higher step, because for him karma yoga is more spontaneous. It doesn't have to work hard. It doesn't have to he doesn't have to bring the sankalpa, and so because he has already practiced karma yoga for a long time, it has become little more natural to him. That karma yoga spirit of surrendering, loving, worshipping Ishvara as a whole cosmos, without distinguishing this group, my group. There is no my group. There is no my language and others' language. All languages are mine. all people are mine, all society is mine, all races are mine, all religious groups are mine. Okay, so there he doesn't distinguish, he sees Ishvara in a deeper level. So that still in Karma Yoga there is a relationship. So he just goes a little more than the relationship. Then the renunciation is just one step below absolute truth. It is just one step below absolute truth. Then he takes a sannyasa. Sri Krishna tells karma is good, but you have to transcend karma. When he advises him transcend karma, he says karma itself binds. Two, one is very adharmika karma. Second step is dharmic karma. Third step is karma yoga rupa karma. Then fourth is transcending even karma yoga rupa karma, become a renunciate. Therefore, renouncing karma means you will be a more than karma yogi. You feel that you are already part of the whole cosmos. So, such a person is a renunciate. He is fit to be a sannyasi. There again sannyasi, a sadhaka sannyasi, then siddha sannyasi. Sadhaka sannyasi, he does Shravana, Manana, Vedantic contemplation, meditation, etc. He does the basic his own sadhana. He doesn't do any social responsibility. Bare minimum food, clothes somebody will give, he begs, and then spends his time only in meditation, contemplation, Vedanta, Vichara, only in that. And even when he talks to, relates to people, he doesn't relate to them through emotion. Emotion in the sense, what you say, that the prejudiced way, he doesn't relate to them. He sees everybody as the same human. In everybody is the same Bhagavan is existing. Okay. So that is a sannyasi. And then Sri Krishna says that sannyasa is better than karma yoga, better than karma. Therefore, transcend all these things. Then that sannyasa will give you moksha. Again, he says one side, you have to do karma yoga to purify your mind, the instinctive, impulsive nature, selfishness, the selfish desires, selfish relationship, selfish act, selfish responses, selfish emotions, selfish thoughts, selfish ideals, all those things you have to transcend. You get the ideals, they are all useful to whole society. You get ideals, your ideals and ideas are meant to do good to the whole society, not your personal ideals alone. They are not personal ideals, the ideals to do good to the society. So, after this, then Arjuna misunderstood. He thought that you are asking me to transcend karma, again asking me to do karma. That's why in this first shloka, sannyasam karma. Now I have completed the first shloka. Now you can see at the end what I have described in these last 3 or 4 classes, 4 or maybe 4 classes. Now you can understand this shloka. Sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam cha shamsasi. Arjuna says, Krishna, at one side, on one side you talk of renunciation of karma, other side you talk of performing karma. Now you are confusing me. This I can't do simultaneously. Doing karma and then renouncing karma, two simultaneously can't be done. Either you tell anyone, if I do karma, then I can't be renunciate. I can't be sannyasi. If I am sannyasi, then I can't do karma. He says, Yat Shreya etayor rekam. What is Shreyas? What is good for me between these two? You select any one and give me. You think over which is good for me as an Arjuna, as your disciple. Select one, right one for me according to my level of maturity, my level of sadhana. You select one for me and then I shall follow it. Now, Bhagavan Krishna's reply in the second shloka. Let us go to the second shloka. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasah karma yogascha nishreyasakaravabhau tayostu karma sannyasat karma yogo vishishyate. He says, first Sri Krishna says, don't put them as totally opposite to each other. Karma yoga and renunciation. Renunciation goes with Vedanta Vichara, self-enquiry, the contemplation. Contemplation, self-enquiry goes with renunciation. Karma goes with karma yoga. That means doing karma as a worship to Ishvara. Therefore, karma yoga and renunciation. Real renunciation, not out of laziness, being irresponsible. That's not the renunciation. The real renunciation out of maturity, that will take you to moksha. And also, karma yoga also is meant for, karma yoga is also meant for moksha only. Therefore, sannyasa karma yogascha nishreyasakara bhubau. Karma yoga and renunciation of all karmas, both of them are meant to take you to moksha. Therefore, both are not opposite to each other. They are only, one is a previous stage, another is a second stage. Karma sannyasa is a higher stage, karma yoga is a lower stage. But both of them are in the same direction, towards moksha, towards liberation. Okay? Both of them are in the same direction towards moksha. Sannyasaha karma yogascha nishreyasa karabhavav. Arjuna asked in the previous shloka, first shloka, tell me which one is a nishreyasa kara? Which one takes me, gives me, leads me to moksha? He says, both of them lead you to moksha. Don't say one is opposite to moksha. Because karma is done as a yoga. Karma is done as a yoga, as a karma yoga, as an offering, as a worship to Ishvara. Therefore, that also will take you to moksha. Sannyasa also will take you to moksha. Why, Arjuna, why are you understanding karma yoga and karma sannyasa are opposite to each other? They are in the same direction. Only thing is, karma yoga is a little lower step. Jnana yoga or sannyasa is a higher step. But both of them are in the same direction towards moksha. Okay. Sannyasa karma yogascha nishreyasa karabhavav. Both of them will do good to you. Doing good means moksha. Both of them will give you to moksha. Okay. Tayostu karma sannyasat karma yogo vishishyate. But considering your level, though both will take a person to moksha, but we have to consider the person's maturity level. Considering your maturity level, I advise you, karma sannyasa, karma yoga is better than renunciation. Performing karma as a worship, as a service, as a loving service to Ishvara is better for you. I am talking to you particularly, because karma sannyasa is a higher stage. The other person will achieve, who has transcended your level, come to that higher level, he will do that. But for you, I am advising you, tayostu karma sannyasat karma yogo vishishyate. Karma yoga is better. The worshipping Ishvara through your duty and responsibility, through these circles which I have told you. One is a family, then the friend circle, friends and colleagues, your place of work. Third is the society or the nation. Then you say the whole globe, then the whole cosmos. These 6 circles. So, the performing karma yoga, living as a karma yogi, relating to whole cosmos as if you are relating to Ishvara, out of love and respect and dedication, surrender, selflessly you serve them. Karma yoga is definitely better than the giving up the karma, because karma is a means. Karma helps you to develop a relation with Ishvara and you. Because supposing you love somebody, how do you express your love? You express your love, your respect and love through something. You give something, you do namaskara, or you give him something, or invite him for food, ask him, offer a chair, or help him. So some activity, some action, either offering, giving, serving, helping, through these things you express your love and service, love and respect. Similarly, when you serve Ishvara as a devotee, as a bhakta, as a sevaka, then you will be doing serving whatever the life activities you have, different your social activity, your personal, your family. Make use of all these, your individual activity, family activity, your colleagues and friend circle, then the society, then your nation and the globe. All these various activities of these various levels, you use all these things as a worship to Ishvara. Therefore, you follow the government laws, you follow the social conventions. Don't say, I follow my religion, I don't follow man-made laws. This is ridiculous. There is no such thing called man-made. Because man-made is also part of the human laws. Human laws are part of the values. Those values are instructed, advised by Ishvara. Those values make you more a better person, more mature person, make you a selfless person. Therefore, any law is written according to these larger interest of society, larger interest of the whole humanity. They involve definitely good humanistic values or even dedicating religious values. So the normal common sense values, common sense discipline, common sense laws are included in our religious laws. Our religion, Hindu religion says, one is religious ethics and also common sense ethics, or that is a social and economic and political ethics. The social common sense ethics are included in religious ethics. Religion includes both. Religion means it talks of certain little more unseen world, unseen things, so that requires a little more ritualistic values, ritualistic duties. These are the common sense duties. Another is a ritualistic duties. But both together is karma yoga, is religion. Therefore, you can't say I am a religious man and I don't care for your government laws. This is selfishness. This is not religion. This is exploitation, not religion. So, this karma yoga is good because still you need external work as a relationship with Ishvara. In your relationship with Ishvara, you need some kind of so for this relationship, your dedication, your love for him, your service for him requires some expression. External expression, what is it? Some kind of a service. Your duty, your responsibilities, your working conditions. So this same work you are using as a service to him. Sannyasa means you don't need certain external work. You don't need an expression. Without expression, your heart feels that yoga, karma yoga, loving surrender to Ishvara. Okay? So in sannyasa, you have grown to that level where you learn that loving surrender. You see your whole life is already meant for him. It's already dedicated to him. Your whole life is dedicated to him. Now you don't need external duty as a helping tool to express your love. See, there are two ways. One is when you love somebody, you give some gift. But after giving, your love becomes still deepens. I'm giving a worldly example. Your love becomes still selfish, selfless. Your love becomes still deepens it. And you feel that any gift that I can offer in the world looks too small, because love is much more. Because when you grow to the still higher level, then you think that nothing is worth giving. Everything looks too small. Nothing can express my love. I can only say, I just surrender myself to you. So therefore, everything looks smaller, then the love is becoming a larger one. That is the stage that you give up all karma, because karma is not required. Your whole life is his. My life itself is yours, then why do I need karma? That is the stage you called sannyasa. See how beautiful it is. Karma helps you to grow into that love, to grow into that selfless relationship with Ishvara. A selfless, a loving, a dedicated relationship, a devotional relationship you learn through your duties, your responsibilities, your activity. Then a stage comes where this work looks too small. Even offering gifts, service looks too small, because I am serving him, I am giving him, I myself belong to him. Where is the question of giving and taking? My every activity is his only. Then you are left with only one thing, self-enquiry. You want to understand the truth. You go to the next stage of Jnana Yoga. Then the Karma Yoga is over. Karma Yoga stage you have transcended. Therefore, Bhagavan Krishna says here, for you at certain level, Karma Yoga is better, because you are not yet mature enough to be able to live as a sannyasi. Sannyasi requires a higher maturity level. Therefore, okay, now you follow Karma Yoga. A stage comes, a time comes to you, at some time later you will be fit for sannyasa, then I can tell you can do that sannyasa. Sannyasa is definitely a higher level. Therefore, tayostu karma sannyasat karma yogo vishishyate. Therefore, for you, compared to karma sannyasa renunciation, karma is better for you. Okay? Second shloka we have completed. We'll go to the third shloka. I'll just read out and explain in the next class. Gneyassa nitya sannyasi yo nadveshti na kangshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. Third, fourth, I think go together. Third, fourth, fifth. Third, fourth and fifth, all these three up to fifth, I think even sixth also. Sixth, seventh. All these are interconnected ideas. I think second to seven. Second shloka to seventh shloka. All these are one connected idea. Second shloka we have just done today. Anyway, we will continue up to 7 shloka. Second to 7. Same one idea. The relation between Karma Yoga and Sannyasa. Okay? Karma Yoga and Sannyasa. How they are interrelated. How they connected. How don't see them as negatively against each other and don't put them against each other. How they help you. These two. The relationship between Karma Yoga and Sannyasa is talked about in the 2 to 7 shlokas. I think these six shlokas. So these 6 shlokas. Today only we covered 2nd shloka, 3rd, 4th and etc. we do. And then again see all the 6 shlokas together as one block. You get one idea. Okay? The one idea we'll get it. I think we'll discuss in the next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.